Hey, folks. Thanks for joining our Construction Over Coffee podcast. Today, I have Matt Charlan, the Principal and Director of Business Development at CBA Architects, joining me. Matt, thrilled to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here.
Excellent. Really excited about this one. We're going to talk about stuff that, we've talked about in the before. We're going to cover some similar topics, but I think this conversation is going to go in a direction that we haven't really had conversations go in going before. So really excited for you and for our viewers to experience this. So let's start. Give us the big picture overview of yourself, what you're doing, and how you've really arrived to where you're at.
Okay, good question. I am very, very passionate about and optimistic about humanity. I like to think of my purpose in life as to improve the human experience. I take that very seriously throughout every single interaction. The people I work with, the people I work for, the people that work for me. It should be an empowering culture where it's built on trust, so that everybody can be the best versions of themselves. Really like that way of looking at it. That was something that our CEO said not too long ago, and I think that's the right way to look at culture, right? So yeah, how I got to where I am right now. I don't know if you want to go back all the way back to when I was 3 years old and wanted to be an astronaut, but I've just actually at a very young age after that, I wanted to be a developer. I was constantly asking questions about why things were the way they were. Why couldn't they be a little bit nicer, a little bit better, a little bit more inclusive, a little bit more intuitive? Good design should be invisible. And there was always things in the way, or frustrations with waiting in line or sitting in traffic or being forced to sit inside. Buildings shouldn't tell you what to do, So I went to school, got my bachelor's of science in architecture, and I minored in political science. And I got another bachelor's of science in business administration, focusing on international business and marketing. And I just had an obsession with how the world works, studying different systems, different ideas. But at the end of the day, I'm a hardened and passionate capitalist. We have at CBA in our field in multifamily architecture, multifamily industry, a lot of great rivals, healthy competition, and we're constantly, all of us, pushing each other to do more, to communicate better, whether that's better documentation of our projects or better newer ideas, and then it's just really great to see your stuff built. It's really cool to see other people's stuff built and get excited about it, and a little bit jealous that they have it and that they came up with an idea that maybe you didn't yet. So it's fun. It's super exciting. And you asked this question, I think, a little bit earlier before we got on camera, but our company, Charlan Brock Architects, we say impacting lives together. We've impacted over 1 million lives. Actually, at this point, it's now 1.5 million lives impacted. And I think about my wife's an attorney, and she helps people, and it's amazing, it's great. But I've helped more people, it's something like that. It's like we are having a profound impact on the way everyone lives, the built environment. I mean, what's cooler than that? I mean, the idea of the earth is amazing, and we have to make our interventions and to put our footprint down thoughtfully, and that's exciting. There's not everything built is good, and we can always do better. But we're trying to make the best interventions, the best moves, the best solutions to improve the human condition.
Agreed. You mentioned that your firm is really passionate on a few things, and I think the future is architecture is one, and then multifamily design, and your specialty in multifamily design and mixed use. And that's not something we've talked a lot about on the show. So, tell us a little bit about that and where you're at with all of it.
Yeah. So obviously there's lots of form factors that housing. I'm sorry, is that mowing interrupting the sound
Not at
a little
all.
bit?
No.
So there's a wide variety of form factors for housing. Obviously, we have single family homes, and you could write dissertations on how it is a good use or a bad use of land, or how the market wants it or doesn't want it, or the strains of multifamily or single family on infrastructure, or the infrastructure required for a single family home. We can talk about net zero and stuff like that, and how to make a more responsible, self-contained system that it's not necessarily bleeding out. At the end of the day, though, I chose to spend my energy of my life to fight the urge and the need for more greenfield development. I love Florida. I love the mountains in North Carolina. I love going out to the deserts out west, and I'd like to think that we could do what we need to do inside of the constraints of where we've already spread our urbanization out to. So our firm, we look at a lot of brownfield sites, gray field sites, as it were, parking lots, and try to figure out what is the proper density, what's the proper program. And there are financial conditions to that make it this bite-sized portions for investors. It seems to always be around that 300 unit mix number for multifamily, but you get some extra large size projects that are 450 or whatever, and then there's some real exciting ones that go beyond that, where they're looking at creating their town centers, their villages, couple thousand units in some cases. And those are super exciting because they start to create their own momentum, their own, what's the right word? Kind of sustaining themselves, and start thinking about the real need for mixed use. And that's kind of how we got started in the mixed use, was almost like privatizing the amenity suite, and bringing it to market, offering opportunity for people to start their own business as incubators in a way. So some of the mixed use stuff, you'll see a lot of developers either take one or two tracks that they don't have a lot of land, but either the city is requiring them to put in some level of commercial mixed use, or that's just what they do. They vertically integrate their program so that you have residential over mixed use. Or a lot of times you see developers want to, horizontally do mixed use, where it's a more standard 3 and 4 story wood frame construction with out parcels. And we're trying to reduce the infrastructure and infrastructure upkeep, bring everything tighter and closer together. Not always. I mean, sometimes we forego that out of a matter of business, that we see that the surface parked projects are more affordable. It's $4,000 or $8,000 for a parking space on the ground, and it's $29,000 for a parking space in a big building. I hope and I look for ways for that to be reduced. Real excited that Miami got the RTZ zoning approved. I don't know if you're aware of that, but there's I guess the state of Florida, through lobbying and down in Miami, they've agreed to a new type of zoning, rapid transit zoning, and in some cases allowing for 500 units an acre, and basically removing the parking requirement. And that could be a huge windfall in these metropolitan cities that have very high costs for land. It could be a huge windfall to bring down the cost of living.
That was a big, I think that was some significant progress for that area. And the hope is that it's inspiring other areas to really latch on to that can use it and that can benefit with it, benefit from it, essentially.
I don't think that they would have created the RTZ zoning in only one municipality. I have a feeling that it's going to happen every single place that there's a bright line stop.
Excellent.
So
Now, curious, in that regard, did your firm have anything to do with, that effort and pushing that effort forward and the movement?
no, but we're really supportive of
Sure.
the identification of some of those blighted areas that they've chosen to allow this to happen.
Cool.
It does seem like there's opportunity for that on the south side of Orlando. It seems
Mm-hmm.
like there's opportunity in certain areas of Tampa. Tampa, when the Jobs Act in 2017 was being passed or written, Tampa was smart, and they got pretty much all of their city, all of their downtown listed as an opportunity zone, and that's a huge deal. That really changes the whole willingness of financiers to engage that type of project, whatever project it is, and multifamily
Absolutely.
count.
Now, for those viewers that may not be, aware of you or your background, tell us a little bit about the locality of, the location of a lot of the work that you're doing and the experience in that multifamily mixed use market in Florida.
In Florida, well, so overall nationally, we're currently licensed in 24 states. That number fluctuates a little bit. So our footprint in the United States, large. We've designed over 250,000 units that have been built. Big number, and we have about $2.25 billion of work in construction right now. And in Florida, we have about 18% of the pipeline, as what I kind of call it, everything that's going in for permitting right now, in construction, just finishing up and being leased. Take that 2-year kind of moving average, and we're about 18% of that. About 1 out of every 5 projects, new multifamily Class A, is something that we've worked on in the state of Florida. So
Awesome.
it's
I know you did mention you work nationwide. I know some of the great work y'all have done in North Carolina. Tell us a little bit about the rest of the U.S. as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because one of my roles as well at the company, besides business development, is also head of marketing, and we're looking at awards submissions right now, and I always feel like the projects in Florida photograph better because of all of our lush landscape, and they can't really do that up there. There are similarities. There are minor differences. Every city is unique, though. I mean, the things that really change the designs from place to place is the jurisdictional code in that state. In Florida, we do fair housing. We do ADA code for public spaces, but fair housing is guiding the unit design, and that's a little bit different in other states. So there's ergonomics of the actual spaces themselves that maybe change. Bathroom layouts are a little bit more flexible in Orlando, and they're a little bit more conservative from a inclusivity standpoint in other states. Also, I guess the demographics, how people are moving and around from one place to another. Certain cities tend to attract certain types of demographic shifting. So in Texas, we have a pretty strong footprint in that Dallas, Houston, Austin, East Texas, East Central Texas area, and we've got a lot of projects, in the first ring of those cities, and it's a lot of what you would expect, I think, in the sense that it's a lot of lot of wrapped parking garages with fingers going off to be double loaded corridors to try to get back that efficiency that you lose when you wrap a parking garage with apartments. So a lot of that. You know, in Tennessee and in Nashville, in that area, there's been a big push on the south side of Nashville to create more neo-traditional planned community town centers. And we're active in that in the core developments of those. That's a lot of fun, laying out master planning and site visioning for big, massive things. You know, the types of work that you would see like DPZ do, that kind of stuff is really fun and really exciting to do. On the Mid-Atlantic, I feel like it's kind of the same. I feel like the Central Tennessee or Nashville, Tennessee, and the Raleigh, Durham, Charlotte area, they're kind of similar. People are moving to them. People are moving to these three places I just talked about: Texas and Nashville, Tennessee, and Western North Carolina. Young people, kind of the same type of demographics, slightly different reasons. It's all interesting. I mean, the basic thing is that we also have to be storytellers. We have to start with a vision, to really build that vision, understand that vision, and it helps drive decisions when we have a clear vision. You know, we're very good at building teams. And we like clients that like to have fun, cool, smart, thoughtful teams. You have to have everybody on the team. Everyone can't be the same person, the same clone. You have to have your bases covered. You need the finance guy that's saying we can't afford that. You need the creative guy that says I don't care, or whatever. So that's super important. I think that's the most important thing. There's not really a one size fits answer for everywhere, but there are a lot of things that are similar. So, you know, the cost of lumber, maybe that doesn't change a whole lot from place to place because you can move it. But when you talk about prefab concrete, maybe there's a difference there. So, you know, it probably comes down a little bit more to labor availability when we think about, you know, specific markets, because you can move materials. Although when cost of gas is high, that gets harder too. So, you know, there's a resurgence, I guess, with all of the squeezing of margins. There's a resurgence of vernacularism and localization because of that. But yeah, you know, it's funny because a couple of years ago, when it was you couldn't find a vinyl window, and the cost of wood was 4x, 5x of what it is now. Concrete deals were cheaper in Florida than it was to do it in wood. You couldn't find a framer, and you found lots of great masonry guys at the time. So it was kind of a windfall for those guys, the clients that were kind of positioned right at the right time. They were able to build buildings for a reasonable price before that builder's risk premium went up in the insurance, and get us, you know, a superior product to market. So, you know, the lesson that I think there is to be really aware, have a kind of a market awareness, have some people on your team that have been through some cycles and can kind of say, you know, stay the course, or we got to bend it a little bit this way, you know.
Agreed. You brought up something really interesting, which was, let's focus on, you know, cost of materials. The last few years, you know, has been wildly volatile for building materials. Lumber, I, you know, distinctly remember that near parabolic move that saw a 4-5x increase in price over a pretty short period of time. And then the sell-off, and then the rise again, and we've sold off again. Tell us a little bit more about what was happening on the forefront with the design, and what you were hearing from clients when that was going on?
It I want to say it was scary, but it wasn't really scary. It was just really, really unnerving. Um, everybody was just everyone wanted to keep their eye on the road and just go and just keep plowing ahead and thinking that it's got to come down soon. It's got to come down soon. And it was just hockey stick parabolic. It
Yeah.
was crazy. Um, I do think there was some geopolitical stuff happening. I mean, it was the tariff wars. I mean, that's really what it was. A lot of our lumber was coming from Canada, and it was the tariffs. And that whole kind of, I want to say pissing match, but it's probably something I'll take out. But between China and America, I mean, a lot of windows and some building materials come from Southeast Asia. So it's just fascinating. Miami is when we were down in Miami a couple of months ago for a Urban Land Institute conference, and Miami is licking their chops right now, and they are dead set on kind of quietly forgetting about the cryptocurrency play and saying that they're now going to be the gateway of all building materials that are shifting their production to South America and in Mexico. It's now labor is cheaper in Mexico now than it is in China, and it's closer. So from South America to Central America, a lot of building materials are going to start coming from there. Seems like, and there's much less language barriers to have direct connection with the guys down in Mexico and in South America. About a third of our office speaks Spanish. So I think that globalization is good for our industry personally. But yeah, I think that that's part of this new paradigm, this new market, is that there's a shifting of where things are coming from, and
Yes.
where things are going. There's an
Miami.
entire, the Fed's getting out of mortgage-backed securities. And interest rates are up to 4% and 6%, in that range, depending on if you're looking at 2-year, 10-year, 30-year. And that didn't exist for the last 15 years. So there's going to be entire industries of business coming in to take advantage of that opportunity.
Agreed. Interesting part about Miami almost becoming the port of entry, the port of import, for that area of the world. Outside of that, of everything you mentioned, I think there was a little bit of there was a supply chain crisis with, in response to some of the lockdowns that were happening in different parts of the world, and factories were shutting down, and the people who would eventually ship it to you once the materials were even available. And I think that definitely played a really large portion in it, that supply chain. Outside of building materials over the last 3 years, there's been a lot of opportunity for disruption. One thing I know you're pretty excited about is that AI and technology aspect of how things can move forward with it. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing on the forefront.
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know if I guess you said that you've gone down the rabbit hole a little bit and played around with it.
Yes.
It's from, when we talk about like a chat GPT and OpenAI, and DALL-E 2 and Midjourney, it's super fascinating. Should definitely, if you're listening and if you haven't had open an account yet, definitely encourage you to do it. Chat GPT, learning how to use it, but it's really great for throwing in your word soup and asking it to deliver a narrative, a bio, a description of this. If you want to have it do it in the style of Hemingway, it could do that too. I don't use it for that, but finding new words and finding ways to iterate, it's definitely really, really helpful there. And then you've seen like architecture studios using DALL-E 2 to iterate really fast, futuristic type of inspirational designs. And it is really inspiring, and it's really cool to use it that way. I think that where AI is going, though, is where you start adding in your own data sets, or where you start to hybridize it with other software that you currently use. And I think that what the potential, obviously there's some scary things that we could talk about, but the positive side of it, the reason why it's worth the risk, it has the ability to remove so much of our everyday frustration
Yes.
and pain. And I know we'll still, as the human condition is that we'll find something to be upset about regardless. But maybe it could be something new, a different thing that we're upset about versus the current things we're upset about. Hopefully, they're better, higher quality problems. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're hopefully going up that chain, up that pyramid. So I get really bogged down looking at code. It's one of my least favorite things to do. I want to just retain it all in my head and never have to look at it again. But I can't. I'm not that smart. So the idea of being able to work on a model, we're modeling our building, and when you stretch something, all the systems are stretching along with it. If you change the building system, if you go from wood frame to block and plank, can the AI do 90% of the work and adapt and adjust everything for you? If we could do that, it would reduce the cost of architecture on the built environment substantially, and it would improve the product substantially. We'd be able to iterate even faster. If we can crack this nut, we can do a lot for the built environment in a really positive way. And it won't be cookie cutter, because all of the passionate placemakers out there, they now have an opportunity to really sculpt the experience in these different seams and nodes, and think about urban design and spend more time being creative and passionate.
Agreed. You said something I want to expand on, which is buildings need to be more responsive. When you say responsive, I'm not going to assume. Tell us what you mean by responsive to what?
What do you want me to mean?
I mean, we can go in about 5 different directions.
Yeah, I know. That's kind of why I like to leave it vague. But look, I think we could have glowing baseboards that when you walk through the halls at night, just enough light is presented so you don't trip on anything. I think you could have better smart space planning. And if you think about like an old ship design or an airplane design, the cabins, everything is just, there's a spot for everything. Everything has its spot, and there's no wasted space. So I think we can look for efficiencies, and whether that drives this idea of only air conditioning the part of the house that you're going to use, or the part of the where you live. You want maybe your Nest thermostat system knows that when you come home, you're going to want a nice, cool living room. We're already there, right? We're already there on so many ways, but who has time to set this up, and who wants to give all of their information away? So, there's some things that aren't quite connecting right now, and I think that AI is going to make a lot of it seamless. And I think that it's going to happen in multifamily before it happens at scale, before it happens in the single family markets. And I think what you're going to see is vastly superior apartment communities. Not every single one of them is going to be vastly superior in 7 years, in 2030, or whatever date you want to pick. But there will be some standouts, and it will be more affordable, surprisingly more affordable relative to competition, and vastly superior. And the people who live there, their lives will improve remarkably. And it's going to be a no-brainer. And it's going to be a revolution. I mean, that's going to be the adoption. That's what they've talked about with singularity is kind of what we're talking about here, is that the building being more responsive and more perceptive and more responsive, we will be merging in a way with the building. I mean, the building will present to you what you need So I think that there's that pattern will tessellate across cities, and there's massive opportunities from an urban design perspective once that happens at scale, and that's super exciting.
Absolutely. It's um, Mid-Journey, Chat GPT, OpenAI. That stuff is so fascinating. And I think more people are starting to pay attention to it. But for many, it's simply a buzzword or a talking point. And that I encourage everybody that's listening to go out, do your due diligence, see how it can affect you and impact you, and get as familiar as you can with it. Because you and I were talking about this before the show. It feels like 5 or 10 years of advancement has become public in the last several months. It's incredible what we can
It's
now do that we couldn't do before.
it's amazing. It's amazing. If you watch tutorials on YouTube on any of the
Mhm.
stuff, it's farther along now. I mean, like a YouTube video on Dolly 2, it's what you're able to produce now is still, it's going faster and faster and faster. I'm eager as hell to figure out how to start using the APIs that are out there, or and plug this into other things and see what I can do, what we all can do. So if anybody who's listening has any good tips and tricks, wants to share some thoughts with this about this, I'd
Mhm.
love to hear it. Because right now I'm stuck in just the web application, but even so, it's still really powerful. It's still really cool, like to check your thoughts. If you were to describe something with a certain amount of words and you have a picture in your head, put it in a Dolly 2 and put it in a Mid-Journey and see if either one of them are close. And then keep on working on those words until the picture is what you had in your head. And I think that it's an interesting reflection tool. So again, it's only going to get stronger as the data set gets more complete. It's also fascinating to see how others have tried to create their AIs and they've failed massively, or they've said that they are not. Got to pull this back. Whether it's Bing or I don't know. I should probably name all of the other companies, but
Sure.
there does seem to be something special with Chat GPT and Dolly 2. I try to use Midjourney a little bit, but it's got a monthly membership, and I hear that it's more robust in certain ways, but I do like my Dolly 2. Dolly 2 is fun.
Cool. It's interesting you mentioned the APIs. I was going to suggest to you, I think the next big thing is when people can start, using call APIs and integrating all these different types of software and integrating the AI with your APIs and almost building your own software internally based off of that. That's going to be the next gen wave of the future. And when we get off this, I'm going to send you a couple of really interesting things to check out. I think you'd be
Cool.
curious about. A couple of interesting extensions too. Um, I want to go back to the building products for a moment. While we were talking about challenges, opportunities, we talked about the challenges of the volatility of building prices. We talked about the opportunity that AI is going to present, and you mentioned, a major challenge is labor availability in the AEC world. I think that is one of the most talked about, stressed about, um, questioned things. Now, your firm is having massive success with people coming through the door, and they're the perfect fit, but a lot of firms aren't, and that labor availability is going to be a large sticking point for firms. So, give us your thoughts on that. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think it has to be kind of where we started at the beginning of this conversation about work culture. You have to have a place where people want to work. It is really tough from the subcontractors perspective and contractors perspective, but there has to be a way to get people to want to get out in the field. So that has been, it ebbs and flows. It's been a problem. After 2008, every single sub and contractor seemed to disappear for a long time, and then it was hell, finding new people. It took a long time to build that up, and right now it seems like there are some really, really good, strong contractors out there that are really good at what they do, and they know what they do well, and they're really good at it. And there's definitely the ones that have been around for the 75 years, the multi-generational type of firms, that have a really good perspective. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. And I think that a lot of it gets down to culture. I really do. I think that even on the job site, it gets down to culture.
Yeah, that's important. I think the most interesting thing about this labor market over the last, we'll call it 3 years or so, give or take, is people felt that the balance of power for decades now has really laid solely or mostly with the employer. And I think the last couple of years, individuals have realized that it's fairly a two-way street, and that has certainly been highlighted. And I think it was a good thing that was long overdue and needed to happen. When you mentioned on things that we need to create a place that people enjoy working for, that challenges them, that they can get excited about, those are things that I think should be common sense for a lot of firms, but they're not. And I'm wondering if you have any tips or actionable advice. And again, some of this is really high level, so we might
Yeah.
not be able to speak on it, but any actionable advice for companies
Yeah.
out there that are thinking about this stuff and asking themselves those questions: how can I become more like XYZ?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a fun question.
Hmm.
So super tangible. We do it twice a week, but some that we've talked to do it more. But the idea of breaking your company down into smaller groups of 5 to 6 people, and you can make the decision whether or not you want these 5 or 6 groups of 5 or 6 to be all the same team, or mix up teams, or whatever. And we read a piece of content, or watch a video, 15-minute video, or 15 minutes of reading. Everybody reads the same thing. It's not work. It's not personal. It's that third piece of content. It's work adjacent. It's stuff on AI. It's some architects vision for this, or how to build teams. Maybe it's just content on how to build teams. Or we read the book as an entire company. Everyone was on the same page, literally. Crucial Conversations, or Creativity, or Ink. All these different books.
Hmm.
Pick 7 pages, have someone assign it to everybody, and then what we do is we have like a morning meeting, like a little kind of discussion group, book reading club. 15 minutes of kind of going around the room, going around the circle, and what was something interesting that you got out of that piece. And
Hmm.
we do that, have a little bit of discussion. Again, it's not where's my RFIs, where's my submittals, where it's not your timesheets aren't in. It's not deeply personal. It's not religion. It's not politics. It's not your family. But it's something that we can talk about, that everybody's on the same level playing field. We all just read this content. And we talk about it, and so it gives an opportunity to hear other people, and to listen to them, and let them know they're being listened. So we do that. And then at the same meeting, then we discuss the 3 things we have to get done that day. So we have a little bit of accountability, and then also, we're talking to other people, and they know what project or what task you're getting done that day. And so, if there's an opportunity for someone to say, oh, I did something like that, or oh, that's really cool. How are you doing it? So how are you going to do that? Or it gives an opportunity for that kind of discussion. And then at the end of the meeting, it's what does anyone have any recognitions? I think it's super important to recognize people for doing a good job. And we oscillate in our company and go through cycles where there's a lull in recognitions, and then there's maybe over recognizing people. But it's super important. I mean, it gets into this whole thing of, am I doing a good job, or is that just my job? But you should recognize people. You should let people know that they're doing the right thing, even if it's not excellently great, superior, they just cured cancer. It's still good to know, to touch base with them and tell them, hey, you're on the right path. You're doing a great job. Really appreciate it. And it gives you opportunity, then buys you a little bit of capital with them to maybe down the road, if you need to pull them aside and say, hey man, I don't know how you're going to get it done, but I need some help with this.
Sure.
So I think that's super important. And then I guess this may be the other little thing that our company does, but we do a personality test with people, everyone. And so far, I haven't had anyone say, please don't share that with anybody. But we do take the approach that every type of person is beautiful and is fine. And it sounds a little bit new agey, but whatever. People are naturally good or wired for certain types of interactions, certain types of processes, certain types of tasks, all that kind of stuff. So knowing that somebody really freaks out if something happens spontaneously around them or to them, I try to avoid that mostly. So different people are different, and try to keep up with it, and it's actually really, really fascinating. So I really, really enjoy that part, the know thyself kind of thing. It's cool. Those like four thoughts.
That's really cool. Those are some really cool thoughts. The last part about the personality test is fairly interesting, because we know a lot of firms that use them, but they seem to be using them for, I think, the wrong reason. When you're looking for specific things and maybe specific behaviors or patterns of behaviors and processes, in your industry, there's it's not a one size fits all, but there's certain things you look for that would indicate a higher likelihood of success. And there's certain things you look for that would show that if an individual is inclined to behave in this particular way, they are likely not to be as successful as someone who's on the opposite. So I'm curious if you're comfortable sharing the name of that personality test.
We use predictive index.
Okay, the PI.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a good one. All the stuff you're talking about, I think it's indicative of a couple things. One, it's about a company that cares and, obviously values success and personal performance. But, I think what it points to more than anything is what most people would say is a strong corporate culture, a strong company culture, as you were. And people will say, how do I build, how do I build a culture? What does good culture look like? It's like, well, it looks like different things to different people, but there are definitely clues that it leaves behind. And I think all the things you mentioned, those are clues of a company that has a good company culture. And the paradox of that is, what's the best way to do it? Well, you have to really start caring about the people that you hire and the work that they do. From a high level, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to jump in, but you did line it up nicely. I should have had more trust in that. I'm sorry.
Perfect.
So I think a good place to start for any company, though, is kind of a one-page plan. So we start off with a one-page plan for the company, and then we identified departments that we needed to have, created department names and things that fit our purpose, that our need and our use at that moment in time. Some of those have stayed around, some have been renamed, some have absorbed other departments. And I think you have to be courageous enough to make those flips and switches. But each department has, well, let's start off with the big one-page plan. Again, the top of our one-page plan, we've got our brand purpose, and then we have our 5 core values. We have our blue sky vision of what we want to be doing in a couple of years. We've got long-term goals, the next 3 to 5 years, and we have annual goals, and then we have quarterly goals, and every department has their own quarterly goal, or quarterly, maybe 1 or 2, 3 goals, and they must get those done. And that is digitally up on a wall in our office so that everybody in the office can see what it is. And the hopes and the dreams and the idea there is that if you had some free time, you were just wanting to know what I could do to work more, go over to that one-page plan and see what the departments are working on. What problem are they trying to solve? What task, what ambitious thing are they trying to do that quarter? And if you can help out in any way whatsoever, please. And so since then, it's been about 3 or 4 years. I think we implemented that plan, this whole idea in 2019, I want to say. And we had a goal of we figured out that we had impacted 1 million lives by that point in time. We said we want to do another 1 million in the next 5 years. So we're on track for that. We're going to probably hit that before 2025.
Great.
And so now we're reestablishing, well, what's our next new big blue sky vision? That's part of, once we get a little bit closer to that, I think it'd be a good time to innovate that as well. But we're going to follow through with that plan. But and we had some other annual goals as well this year and last year that we kind of shattered. And I think it's a good it's indicative of the success of having good culture. So yeah, we've built this amazing, incredible team that no one person can do it all. No one person can explain it all or has the right perspective. It truly is. It's a company of people trying to figure out how to do the best work possible, build the best built environment. So now every department has their own one-page plan, and it's a little more sophisticated. And I feel like we're just rocking it. I mean, it's tough, it's painful sometimes. It's laborious to get her done, to do the work. I mean, we could sit there and analyze, but we have to iterate, and try and do. So that's where we are right now, and I'm really proud of what everyone's doing. They're crushing it. I'm super proud. Let me say that we are hiring, talented, thoughtful, passionate people. So, any talented, thoughtful, passionate people out there, please get with us.
Find this man. Find him.
Find me. It's real easy. It's Matt at CDF.
Great. And other ways to find you while we're talking about that. LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. For a marketing guy, I kind of lay low on social media, but LinkedIn is good. I'm on the other stuff too, but LinkedIn is good for business, and definitely reach out to me through email. My cell phone is on the bottom of my email address. I do get lots of cell phone calls though, so it's a little bit challenged there. But yeah, please, if we're looking for land planners, we're looking for graphic designers, architectural professionals, admin. Again, you don't have to be an architect. Architects are welcome, but talented project managers for sure. We've recently changed the structure of our company to be more of one team, one vision, and we've done that through various stacks of departments. But we're trying to, as much as we have like a matrix structure now, we try to be as flat as possible, and as everyone's voice is encouraged. So create a safe environment to say, I probably say the worst and craziest things and get like, eyes rolled whenever I say something. But at the end of the day, it's a great group of people. Like I said, I'm really proud of everything we've achieved. So please, everybody and anybody, come here.
We're on the same page. I was going to say specifically, what do you tend to look for? So thank you for clarifying that. That's a great segue, great transition to, I think, something a lot of our viewers are passionate about, which is getting the next generation of folks into these industries. We talk about it a lot, and I think folks have great ideas and solutions, and I'm curious to hear yours. How do we get that potential future architect or PM as excited to do that as we do, that these young folks have the excitement for, to become a doctor, a lawyer, or a tech coder?
If we were having this conversation in one more month, I could say some really, really exciting things, but I can't yet. So I'll say that, we do it through our work product, and we go to job fairs, and that stuff is great and cool. And we definitely shake the friend tree, every single friend and family, hopefully people are, talking shop a little bit during happy hour and getting their friends to come work in this great place. But we started a few different scholarships. At the University of Florida, main campus in Gainesville. We have a program that we sponsored at City Lab Orlando. We're looking to expand those offerings and opportunities, get really engaged. Hopefully it allows us to buy first glance at some of the best talent, and we take them. And then also, there's a lot to be said for some of these young people type of cross, non-institutionally related programs. Shout out to Malcolm Jones, Black Architects in the Making, is doing a phenomenal job engaging young people through that program. Workshops like bridge building, like actual making bridges and loading them up with weight, and getting young minds interested and curious about engineering. It's really cool. It's really fun. You learn a lot about yourself, about how you communicate and how you deal with trying to unlock people's potential and help them see through frustrations. Frustration is a mirage. It's just something you haven't figured out yet, right? So all of that. And I will say that the other part of it too, that I don't think that people, necessarily realize, but there are companies out there that have in our field too, that have really good benefits programs. Maybe that's not super important to somebody in their 20s, but having an employer match your 401k, having good health benefits, paid time off, maternity leave, all that stuff matters. We don't have much turnover at our company. And it's funny because we thought the number spiked for a little bit during the Great Resignation, as it was called, I guess. I think you were referring to like the last couple of years, that paradigm shift where the employer had the power, and then it shifted to the employee. And there were people that left, and a lot of them came back, and that's happened a lot lately. The ones that have left, it seems like about 60% of the people that left in the last couple of years all came back. So, I think that one of the other things too, we talk about hiring young people, and it's obviously you want to get the talent when you can get the talent. Somebody's going to scoop them up. However, I have a profound respect for the maturity of somebody coming in and realizing that not all employers are good, have good intentions. Some employers are only whip crackers, or they're only after what you can do, and you are replaceable. And I guess to some extent, we're all workers, and there's an option somewhere else all the time, but so when you get somebody that comes in and is really, really happy and really and really acknowledges being appreciated, and you can really build that relationship, it's really powerful. And so we've got a good mix. We've got a great mix.
Awesome. One of the biggest conversations we end up having is with folks who are focused on this, right? With creating a good environment and creating an environment that people want to be a part of, and more especially creating an environment that is attractive to people that are not yet in that industry, it tends to be focused around what can we do, to make this place attractive. And that's a good focus. And I think it needs to be a multifaceted approach. The first is creating that good environment, ensuring people that are on board. But the second is reaching those people in a way that is effective to them, coming at them where they're at. Hence, this channel is on multiple platforms. The kids are on TikTok and Instagram, and however we feel about those platforms, well, we're on there because we want to meet people where they're at. What are some ways that you see companies can reach that generation of folks where they're at, whether it be platforms, TV, what do you have in mind?
Wow. That's a really good question. I mean, so we tend to be attracted to places where good thought, or the conversations that we think are interesting and are good, are being had. So a lot of our interactions are I mean, it goes back to a lot of the old school stuff. I mean, the conferences it's a great place to network and ask for that type of thing. Hey, don't be ashamed of saying, like, we're looking for a land planner right now. We've got lots of good land planners, but we're looking for a seasoned, mature land planner, somebody that really can run and develop like a land planning group inside of the design studio. So there's more. Again, a lot of people in the firm can do a lot of things, but if my thought process on all of this stuff is constantly having my eyes open, ears open to find people who like doing things that I know somebody at the company doesn't really like doing. If I can find that fit, then I get super excited, because we're unlocking more and more potential. We're supporting each other. So how and where we do that, again, it is a lot of the old school stuff. Maybe we should be on TikTok. I don't know. There was a time period for a while where we were getting lots and lots of calls for, outsourcing jobs and stuff, like, hey, we can take your concept and do your working drawings for you. A lot of it just doesn't feel right. How much of that work is really your work at that point in time? At the end, but on the other side of that coin, the best idea should win. And it's not really about, the autograph, the signature of Charlan Brock Architects. It's the impact of having the best built environment. So, it's we have a pretty full marketing calendar, with lots and lots of events. We're growing our footprint and our impact in our own hometown. For a while, we kind of flew under the radar, and we were really just focused on being more national. We don't want to be pigeonholed as the Florida architects. That somehow or another, that the guys in New York, when they want to enter the Florida market, they come to us because we have Florida dominance. But if they were to hire us in a project in North Carolina, or something like that, we don't want to be thought of as not being. We don't want to be thought of as there's a Florida discount. Those are the cheap guys down in Florida. Let's hire them. So, so we focused on that for a long time. But lately, it's been more fun in the sense of we've got a pretty good voice and a pretty good impact in our hometown, our home community. It's a big Central Florida wide region from Tampa to Daytona kind of thing, but try to go to lots of events. Anything to do with city visions or county visions. City of Winter Park did their state of the city today. Winter Park's local neighborhood outside of Orlando. Seminole County is a very large county in the area. They're having their kind of vision conference coming up soon. So that's a nice place to just meet people who are passionate about the community and interacting with people and talking with people. A lot of them have kids in their 20s and 30s that are good fits. So I know it sounds old age, but it's a lot of the old boots on the ground type of stuff. We are, we are on social media. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and we try to post. We try to take a strategic approach and think about our post mix and make sure that we're posting about projects and about community involvement type of things, and not just all happy Valentine's Day, happy Groundhog's Day, or it's Black History Month. It's also the work that we're doing. We're showcasing, again, it kind of is. I always use the bad metaphor of hitting two birds with one stone, because I feel like that's so fatalistic. I should find a better way of saying it. But we're also recognizing our own staff for the outstanding work that they're doing when we do that. So it is fun, like driving down I-4 when a friend flies in from out of town and be like, "That's ours. That's ours. That's."
Yes.
It is neat.
It's a cool feeling for a lot of people. And for those listening in, if this is your first episode listening to us, thank you. And one thing we suggest to firms that are in a built environment, each time you do a project, right, and it's complete, put a business card, put a sign, whatever you need to do, say, hey, we are so-and-so, we built this, we're always looking for people, basically alluding, this is a great career, this is a great opportunity, start thinking about this now, get this in your head, reach out to us if you ever want to chat about the industry. And just doing things that can be in someone's everyday life that even puts the option of these fields and industries on the table to them and gets them thinking, that's a win. And that's something, we recommend to every company to do, whether it's a shopping center that opens, a new mixed use development. Put your name out there, let people see what you're doing and invite them to a conversation with you. Get that conversation started.
Absolutely. In our profession, in our field, everybody should be on the same team in an ideal world. In our field, you can win over the other one. You can be wrong and reform your idea and get on the same page with somebody else. But at the end of the day, we are beyond just CBA. We are one team, and we have the opportunity of working with the city and working with the community and addressing concerns, and we're building a lasting legacy. It doesn't just exist in your bank account, and it's not just your 401k. You do drive down the road. You do go eat at dinner at the bottom, at the first floor of one of your projects, and you listen to people talk about things. And it's when I started here, I was looking at Instagram and Facebook to see where people were taking pictures at our projects and what kind of pictures they were taking, who's taking pictures. It's super fascinating. And this site had an old sawmill on the site way back in the day, in the 1800s, and it had been there forever. And it is no longer needed, no longer going to be this lumber yard anymore. And so we were able to salvage some of these structures of the building from the 30s or 40s, these steel hinge, really cool pieces of steel, and we built this amazing pavilion structure. And I was out at the site taking pictures for an award submission, and I see a wedding going on in the parking lot, and I was like, wow, that feels really good. I mean, the team did such a good job about making place that somebody wanted to get married there. That was a big deal to me. That's really, really cool. So, I mean, the idea that a building can evoke emotion, or can, like I said, can celebrate relationships or make connections is truly powerful.
I know we're coming up against a potential stop here. Yeah. In closing, what do you want to touch on? What do you want to leave our audience with?
I don't know. We talked about a lot of stuff. A lot of cool stuff happened. A lot of cool stuff happening out there. I don't know if there's any one good conclusive thought that I can give. The world is changing very fast, and there's tons of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of mistakes, for sure. hopefully not by us, but I'm sure we'll make our share. And I know that in all of that, something, very optimistic for the future. We're all going to get stronger for sure. I guess we didn't talk about some of the deficiencies of our current world, but you would think that in the 21st century that we wouldn't be losing power, we wouldn't be having shoddy internet, we wouldn't be having trains blowing up or problems with wastewater. We are at this crazy hopefully inflection point. Hopefully it's not a ceiling. Hopefully we're at this inflection point for humanity. And I think that the built environment is the most exciting place to be. I really do. It's the tech guys have paved the road for us to go beyond what a human being could ever achieve in one lifetime. I mean, the idea of analog architecture, hand drawing and sketching, that's still here. It's never going away. And the idea of digital architecture, when we moved to CAD, I guess 20 years ago now, the skill set's gonna be here. But there is a 2.0 version or 3.0 version with Revit, and then moving in with the idea of being able to incorporate smart APIs and parametrics to all of this. I think we're able to iterate at a rip-roaring speed and hopefully, mitigate some of this increasing costs or increase the value at the same time, so it's an exciting place to be for sure. Very exciting.
I love hearing that. Well, folks, that wraps it up. Matt, awesome having you on the show. Can't wait till this thing goes live and the feedback starts coming in. That was great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. You have a great weekend, sir. Thank you.
You too.